So here we are in June, it's just before the longest day of the year, and this month is a bit of a funny one for me on the estate. Obviously the days are really long now. It's getting light about 3:30 in the morning and it's still light about 10:30 at night. So long days. I'm not always out stalking at both extremes of that, but when I am, it's obviously a long old day. But it does give you plenty of time to catch up with jobs during the day, when obviously in the winter it gets dark, so you just feel like being inside with the log burner on. So obviously the larder maintains a standard of hygiene all the time, but this time of year I can get everything off the shelves, give it a real good deep clean, put them all back on there. And one of the things that I've been meaning to do for ages is catch up with a load of head preparation. So we've got a big chest freezer in the larder where all the clients' heads go. So I've managed to get most of those out and cleaned up now. So they're just drying on the table and they'll go back to clients at some point in the future. So as we've got plenty of time this afternoon, we'll jump in the truck, we'll drive around the estate, have a look and see how the crops are doing, and show you a few other things that I can do this time of year, and then we'll head out for a stalk later on. So we're just driving out the back of the estate office, and there's 4 fallow prickets just wandered out of a barley crop over there. So when I'm just driving around the truck, I've always got the binoculars on me so I can quickly see what it is and where they are. They're out of season till the 1st of August, so if they hang around in that area we'll have to try and get onto those, because we don't really want them coming onto more bits on the estate. So at the top of the rifle range, this time of year it's open to clubs all through the summer, so we're quite busy just in here, doing a lot of grass cutting, to be honest, just keeping the target boards all clear down there. We've got a clubhouse out the back, so obviously doing a bit of housekeeping in there, and we've got a marquee gone up behind us. We've got a charity clay shoot in here at the end of this week, so we've got to do a bit of tidying up for that. So these are the carrots that we filmed back in March when they had plastic on them. So they're well up now and hopefully not too far away from getting harvested. There'll be some deer coming onto these to eat them at night. So it's a case of trying to get round as often as you can and just keep moving them on. Yeah, so we just walked out in this carrot field and there's definitely a few young stags been coming across here. Obviously as all the other cereal stuff starts to dry out, these carrots got quite a lot of moisture on them, so they just come along and dig a few up. Luckily across the whole field there's not too much damage. I haven't had any complaints yet, but I guess they're still a few weeks away from being harvested, just going on the size of this one. So hopefully it won't be too bad, and then they'll get these off in the next few weeks and then we don't have to worry about them. Yeah, so we're out on the other side of this carrot field. Obviously we've got one of these big irrigation reels, so the estate have got plenty of these across the land, watering the vegetable crops. So they do a full length run is about 16 hours, and apparently it puts down 25 millimetres of water across the area that it covers. So deer don't really drink very much, they get all the moisture from what they eat, but where you get these irrigation areas, then you get quite a lot of puddles of water, so quite often it's a good place to find the deer coming to drink from there. And obviously if you've got palatable vegetable tops, then the moisture that's on those, the deer obviously come to eat that as well. Gonna get wet. So we just got a old Rhodo in the barley there. She's still got a little bit of winter coat on her back, so remember the older deer change their coats last. But you can see how high that barley is now, so we can't get chest shots on the roe deer in there, and obviously you're not going to see a muntjac. But that barley's not very far off being ready now. Obviously with our sandy soil, that'll be harvested quite early compared to other parts of the country. So she'll probably have a couple of kids in there somewhere. So one of our now feral peacocks, there's quite a few around the wood. We're not quite sure where they came from originally, whether someone just tipped them out of a vehicle or not, but they've been going pretty hard, displaying and breeding with the hens, and they're just sort of finishing now. Their tail feathers are starting to drop out, so you find quite a few of those on the tracks as you go around. Looks like a muntjac buck. By the time we park up and come back to it, he will have gone into the cover, so we'll just mark him down as being there and come around again in the future. So we've come up onto one of the farm's agricultural water reservoirs. So this is what supplies the water for the veg. It's around the side of the big wood, and this is where we get the highest density of deer, obviously most of the red deer as well. So all these fields around the edge are susceptible to deer damage. So behind us we've got two types of maize. We've got the first bit of maize you can see is AD maize, which goes into the estate's anaerobic digester, and then there's a little thinner strip behind it running away to the spinney in the distance. That's game cover maize, obviously for the bird shooting. So the agricultural maize will get harvested from September onwards, so we need to keep the deer off that as much as possible. But obviously it's going to go at some point, so we don't need to worry about it too much as long as it's grown to a full height. Whereas the game cover maize, that's susceptible to the deer right through until November really, till it starts to dry out. So we just keep an eye on those. We have got a couple of areas that have got electric fences around them, so sometimes we have to go around and just put some new posts in and just make sure the fencing is working okay. This is one of our cover crops which isn't too far away from the wood, and the red deer walk out here easily at night to eat on that. As you can see, there's a couple of hares milling about on it already, just nibbling away. There's quite a few hares around this year, but they tend to get a bit of an easy ride because they're a sort of classic game animal, whereas deer tend to get the blame for everything. But looks like it's coming up okay at the moment. Oh, bit of late season boxing. So it's about 6:45 now. It's not been a really hot day, but it's starting to cool off a little bit, so hopefully there'll be a few more deer moving out in the open rather than just around these margins. We were just looking from that reservoir over there, and in the far distance I thought I could see maybe a couple of muntjac or a roe on a bit of cover crop we've got up here. So we're just going to park up here and we'll just stalk up over here, just have a look, see if we get lucky, and then see what happens from there. Quite often you go in with a plan to just look up there and come back to the truck and look somewhere else, and then you see something completely different in a different place, and before you know it you're heading off in a different direction. So yeah, see how we get on. We're pretty exposed out here in this big open area, so you've got to be looking a long way in front of you in the hope that you pick the deer up, and then you can keep an eye on them, try and keep out of their view. Or you just wander along and hope that you bump something out of the margin and that it stops and you get a shot on it before it runs off. But looking right over the other side, there's a couple of red hinds just coming out on the edge of the wood, just feeding on the margin. That's a field of onions in front of, or between us and them, and they won't eat the onions, so they're just coming and feeding on these grassy, flowery margins. There was a muntjac just on the corner of this maize cover crop, just heading back into this spinney of elders. I don't think it saw us, it was just going back in, having been out for a bit. I'm guessing it was one of the ones I saw from the other side where the reservoir is. Probably could have got a shot, but it wasn't a great backstop really, so better safe than sorry. So yeah, this is one of those cover crops that's always been quite susceptible to deer damage because it's only a couple hundred metres to the edge of the wood. So particularly the red deer just coming straight out, feeding on it. When all the cereals have gone brown and been harvested, there's nothing else for them to eat really. This year it might not be too bad. We've got a big field of sugar beet behind where the camera is, so hopefully that will hold their attention a bit, and there's probably a bit more moisture in there at the moment. But this electric fence has been here for several years. Some of the posts are a bit wonky now, but it still does the job just about, so I'll have to get around that in the next few days and just get that tightened up and get a battery on it, just to try and keep anything off. But we'll just head around the back of this spinney, see if anything's around there. Well, there's not much happening around here. Just gone around the outside of this maize, which isn't within the fenced bit. Obviously the fence isn't on yet anyway, but there's no particular deer damage at the moment. It might need to get a little bit higher before they really start coming onto it. There's probably several muntjac in that clump and maybe a row or two, but they're not going to come out now. We've sort of walked around the outside for a bit, so I think we'll head back to the truck and go and have a look somewhere else. We'll just go and have a look through on some fields just between these two bits of the big wood. You can see up there the main ride, the grass is quite tall now, so you might get a shot on something if you were lucky, but it's getting difficult in there. At some point they'll come through and cut the rides. They can do that once a year. And also this time of year, since the spring until sort of August time, is really bad for ticks in there, so we try not to go in there unless we really have to. There's no obvious deer around. Just have a look up the edge of this hedge and then we'll head back to the truck again and go and look somewhere else. Where we've got all the high crops this time of year, there's no point just hanging around hoping that something's going to come into a low bit. You're kind of better off just jumping between different bits where you know you can get a shot on something if you see it. Third location lucky, hopefully. Can you see it? Okay, just wait for it to turn side on. Just getting our wind, it's just coming from behind us a bit. Eh! Yeah, well, it's just a bit of bad luck there. The deer was obviously here feeding, probably heard the vehicle pull in. We just came around the corner of the field and I had a shot on it straight away, but Adam and the camera were still a little bit too far back to see it, so we just tried to get him up and around to, you know, show you guys what was happening. And by that time the deer had moved front on and the wind's just curling round a little bit from us to that, so it obviously smelt us and just didn't hang around when it decided to go. A little bit frustrating, but we'll keep trying. There was a muntjac doe, but right on the skyline of this field again. And she saw us as we came through the gap and just ran away. Well, just spotted a muntjac in the thermal. Just had the front half of it sticking out from the side of a big tree, about 80 metres in there, looking right at us, and we're obviously pretty exposed on the outside here, so there was no way that we were going to get Adam onto it before I could get a shot. So it looked like it ran to the left, so we'll just give it a couple of minutes and then head over and see what's happened. There's still no obvious sign of it in the thermal, but on the line down the edge of this tree it was stood somewhere through here. I think I can see a spot of blood on the next tree along, so it's probably just a little bit further back than I thought, but on the right line. Yeah, so we've got some good heart lung blood on the tree here. So it was obviously stood somewhere in front of this tree, or just to the side of it, and it's splattered up there. You can just see a little bit going off on the next fallen tree in front of me. So hopefully we'll just do a dot to dot and find where it is. Yeah, so just moving through, got some bits of lung fragment here, lung and heart blood splashed up the tree. I can see it's gone further through here. We've got these lighter copper 243 bullets, so you don't get a massive exit, so you're not getting a lot of blood like you would with a bigger calibre like a 308, or in the old days when we had a lead core 243 bullet. Come through here. Yeah, so it came under the trees here. Yeah, it's a bit through here. Yeah, so it came through here. Yeah, good bits of blood now. Came down the side of this big tree. It's just laid in here. Yeah, good chest shot behind the shoulder. It's just a young buck, but it knew we were there, so it would have had its adrenaline going a little bit. And obviously just took off with the shot, as you'd expect with these light bullets, or bigger deer with a bigger bullet, they can obviously run a bit. So yeah, good result. Finally caught up with one. We'll get that back around the outside here, pick the sticks up and then get it onto the edge of the wood. So we just got this back to the edge of the wood. It's quite warm and there's a few flies around. So we'll leave this here. The truck's only around the corner. We'll get it picked up straight away, back to the larder, get it sorted out. And yeah, we've just left it under these cherry trees, which actually are pretty decent eating cherries. And you can see a lot of deer sign underneath the trees. So it's always a good thing if you know you've got a wild fruit tree or apple tree or something. That's always a good place to stake out and find a deer nibbling bits of fruit off the floor. So yeah, go and get the truck. Well, there we go, still a little bit of light left, but I'm up early in the morning, so it suits me to finish a little bit before it gets completely dark. Yeah, we saw a few rodos as we drove round, which you kind of expect this time of year because they've got kids, so they'll be out feeding up to sort of keep milk coming and everything. The red hinds will be out and about because they've got calves on the ground just about now. Didn't see many roebucks, but it's not a great surprise. They tend to go a little bit quiet before the rut, which is going to start sort of middle of July till middle of August. So yeah, we'll be back next month. We'll be filming sort of around the 20th of July, so hopefully we will see a little bit of rat in action and we'll try doing some culling.